Hi, this is a short story I wrote. It's called A Cat Called Albert. Once upon a time, there lived a cat. In his youth, he was all thick grey fur, whiskers and bright golden eyes. Pampered and adored for his beauty, he won so many cat shows his house was stuffed full of rosettes and cups. He lived a life of luxury. He had his own chair in every room, ate only the best food, and never, ever went outside unless he really had to. He was special. Everyone told him so. His mother, his owner, the other cats he met at shows, their owners. His life was perfect, except for his name, Albert. It was a name he despised. His name should reflect his true status. Majesty, maybe, or king. He was a pedigree after all. He won prizes. But unbeknownst to him, the pedigree name on his rosettes read Vaslander Albertson Rex. So Albert he remained. Albert wasn't happy about it. So he spent a lifetime refusing to come when his name was called, and he generally gave his owner as much ignoring as he could muster. Albert's owner didn't seem to notice. Cats will be cats, she said. But Albert felt his point was being made. And the years passed. Now he was old, grey and very, very fat. Too much of the best food, not enough outside. His show days were very much behind him. Times had changed, but Albert hadn't. Albert had no friends. None. Not a single one. No one in the neighbourhood ever stopped by. Not even the flea-bitten, knock-kneed ginger Tom called Tiddles that lived next door came to see him, and Tiddles had hardly any friends. Not that he wanted to spend time with Tiddles. For a start, Tiddles was called Tiddles, which was laughable. And Tiddles had no breeding. He didn't even know who his father was. He'd never been to a show. He had no pedigree and no rosettes. He was far too ordinary for that. No, Albert did not consider Tiddles to be a friend at all. But none of the other cats in the area would spend time with him either. They called him a snob, said he was rude and boring. They said he was dull. Albert didn't understand. He couldn't help being better than they were. His mother had made that very clear. It was just who he was. At first he tried to explain. He told them about his rosettes and his cups and his fine fur. But they'd refused to listen. They'd laughed and turned their backs on him. He'd even been attacked, right by his own house. That was when he stopped going outside the garden altogether. Albert had been very lonely for a very long time. One summer's day, he was lying outside on the steps, soaking up the sun, when he felt a breeze against his whiskers. He opened his eyes, and a black-eyed mouse appeared in front of him. It was a very small mouse. Albert stared. The mouse stared back. Albert rolled over. The mouse's feet danced a nervous dance, his tiny nose all a-quiver. Thought Albert. I could eat him. But he is so very small. What would be the point? Albert stared hard at the mouse. Then he smiled. It's your lucky day, mouse. I'm not going to eat you today. But when his sharp teeth flashed in the sunlight, the little mouse nearly exploded with fear. The huge scary cat was going to eat him. Quicker than a thought, the mouse ran for his life. Albert watched him go. Oh well, he thought, what else could you expect from a mouse? But when Albert rolled over and went back to sleep, the mouse came back. What a strange cat, thought Eek the mouse, for Eek was his name. He didn't chase me. I wonder why. Eek was a very young mouse and didn't know that Albert was far too fat to chase him. Eek was an orphan. He wasn't even sure that Eek was his name. But it was the noise his mother has made as she'd pushed him into the hole in the floor just before the Ratter cat came for them. It was all he had to remember her. For Eek, the world had been a very scary and lonely place. Nearly every living thing he'd met had tried to eat him or stamp on him. But this cat didn't want to eat him. And there was food, lots of food nearby. He could smell it. Eek did a little dance on the spot to get his courage up. Sometimes his feet just danced. He found it best to go with it. They seemed to know what they were doing. Very carefully, he pattered up the steps past Albert and ran into the kitchen. He gobbled up the cheesy crumbs he'd smelt on the floor, his mousy cheeks stuffed full as he scampered away. By the time Albert woke up, Eek had gone. The next day, Eek came back. And the next day, and the day after that. Albert couldn't decide what to do about the brave mouse. He really didn't want to eat it, and he definitely didn't want to chase it. Maybe he ought to do something. He was a cat. It was a mouse. It was biology. He decided to wait and see what happened. It didn't take long for them to get used to each other. At first, Albert pretended to ignore the mouse as it scampered past, its big black saucer eyes blinking furiously as its feet tippy-toed up the steps. Sometimes Albert would flick a paw at the mouse. It would leap into the air with its little legs still running hard, as if it was trying to fly away. That made him laugh. It wasn't long before Albert found himself looking forward to seeing the mouse. Sometimes, if the kitchen door was closed, the mouse would come and sit with him. Occasionally, it squeaked at him. Albert didn't speak mouse, but he listened and nodded as if he understood. Sometimes Albert would tell the mouse stories. He was sure the mouse understood him. It would stare at him and twitch his little nose. But Eek didn't speak cat. He tried to tell the cat, but he quickly found out the cat couldn't speak mouse. And it really didn't matter. Albert finally had a friend. And Eek? Eek had food, shelter and protection from a cat that didn't want to eat him. What could be better than that? Thank you. Bye.